Dear friends, English literature, romantic poetry, selected poems of Percy B. Shelley, 2A Skylark, brief questions with answers. Brief questions 1 to 58. Question 1. When and where did Shelley born? Answer. Shelley was born in Field Place, Sussex on August 4, 1792. Question 2. What was the nickname of Shelley? Answer. At 12, he entered Eton School where he was nicknamed Mad Shelley. Question 3. When and why did Shelley go to Oxford University? Answer. Shelley went to Oxford University in 1810 for a higher education. Question 4. When and how did Shelley die? Answer. On July 4, 1822, Shelley and his friend William went on a boating excursion and were caught in a storm and both drowned in the Bay of Speyer. Question 5. When was the dead body of Shelley cremated? Answer. His dead body was cremated on August 15, 1822 by his friends Byron, Hunt and Trelawney. Question 6. Where were his ashes buried? Answer. His ashes were buried near the grave of Keats in the English cemetery at Rome. Question 7. How did Shelley take the French Revolution? Answer. Shelley took the French Revolution to be not only a political event but also a spiritual happening and purgation. Question 8. What was Godwin's influence on Shelley? Answer. Shelley was deeply influenced by Godwin's philosophical anarchism, and his famous pamphlet, The Necessity of Atheism, is the result of this influence. Question 9. Why was Shelley expelled from the Oxford University? Answer. He was expelled from the Oxford University for publishing the pamphlet The Necessity of Atheism, 1811. Question 10. What was the contribution of Shelley to romantic revival in English poetry? Answer. He contributed subjective idealism and emotionalism. Question 11. What kind of poet is Shelley? Answer. Shelley is a revolutionary poet. Question 12. What did Shelley teach in his poetry? Answer. He praised human perceptibility and emancipation of the spirit in his poetry. 2A Skylark. Question 1. When was the poem 2A Skylark written and published? The poem was written and published in 1820. Question 2. What was the source of the poem 2A Skylark? Answer. The source of the poem was the song of a real skylark heard by Shelley and his wife near Leghorn in Italy in 1820. Question 3. What does Shelley idealize in 2A Skylark? Answer. In the poem, Shelley idealizes the singing of the skylark. Question 4. What is a skylark? Answer. A skylark is a small bird which flies very steeply into the sky. It sings while it flies up in the sky and often from a height where it cannot be seen but only heard. Question 5. What does the poet call the skylark? Answer. The poet calls the skylark blithe spirit, that is a joyous spirit or soul. Question 6. Why does Shelley call the skylark a spirit, not a bird? Answer. Shelley calls the skylark a spirit, not a bird, because it rises so high in the sky that it becomes invisible to the poet. Besides, the song of the bird is so thrilling to the poet that it seemed to him that the bird is a bodiless spirit of joy. Question 7. From where does the skylark sing? Answer. The skylark sings from heaven or near it, that is, from somewhere near the sky. Question 8. What is meant by purest thy full heart? Answer. It means that the skylark pours out its heart in song. It sings with spontaneity and ease. It expresses the emotions of love of its heart. Question 9. What is meant by unpremeditated art? Answer. It means spontaneous or natural skill. It refers to the spontaneous flow of music comes from the skylark. There is nothing artificial in its music. It sings spontaneously without any previous preparation. Question 10. How does the skylark fly up into the sky? Answer. The skylark flies up into the sky like a flame of fire rising upward. Question 11. How does the skylark keep soaring and singing? And so the skylark keeps soaring and singing simultaneously. It keeps singing while soaring and soaring while singing. Question 12. When does the skylark begin its upward flight? And so the skylark begins its upward flight when the sun is just rising and the sky is suffused with golden light. It is a skylark's habit to start its upward journey before the break of dawn. Question 30. Why are clouds brightening? Answer. The clouds are brightening because of the golden light of the rising sun. Question 14. What is meant by unbodied joy? Answer. It means a bodiless spirit of joy, happy spirit or soul that has shaken off its mortal body. Question 15. Why is the skylark compared to an unbodied joy? Answer. An unbodied joy means a happy soul that has shaken off its mortal body. The skylark is compared to an unbodied joy because, like an unbodied joy, it is a happy soul that soars upwards heaven, leaving the earth. Question 16. Like an unbodied joy whose race is just begun. What type of imagery is used here? Answer. In this line, we find a perfect example of abstract imagery which is very apt in its idealization of the bird's infinite race. Question 17. Why is the skylark compared to a star of heaven in broad daylight? Answer. A star in the sky is invisible during daytime. Similarly, the skylark becomes invisible as if it flies higher and higher. So the skylark is compared to a star in the sky in broad daylight. Question 18. When does the pale and purple twilight melt away? Answer. As the skylark soars upwards, the pale and purple twilight seems to melt away with the approaching of the white light of the rising sun. Question 19. Keen as are the arrows of that silver spear. What do the arrows on silver spear refer to? Answer. Silver spear refers to Venus, the morning star, and the arrows to the rays of the morning star. Question 20. What does the song of the skylark feel? Answer. The song of the skylark fills the earth and the heaven. Question 21. Why is the skylark song compared to moonlight? Answer. As just the moon flies, as just the moon fills the whole earth as well as the sky with its soft light, the skylark fills the earth and the sky with its song. So the skylark's song is compared to moonlight. Question 22. What thou art we know not. What does the poet mean here? Answer. It is difficult for the poet to describe the skylark. To use aerial images for an earthly bird is not sufficient to bring out its true nature and sphere and shape. Question 23. What is meant by the line, what is most like thee? Answer. It is difficult to think of anything that closely resembles the skylark. Question 24. Of the skylark's song and rainbow, what is more pleasant? Answer. The skylark's song is sweeter to the ear than the multicolored rainbow is to the eye. Question 25. What is meant by a poet hidden? Answer. A poet is hidden because his world is a secret world of thoughts and fancies, which is hidden from men. His message to mankind is so new that people cannot understand it. Question 26. Why is the skylark compared to a poet hidden? Answer. The poet's message is so obscure that people cannot easily understand it, but he goes on singing, writing till the world is moved to sympathy with his hopes and fears. Similarly, the skylark keeps singing till we are moved to admiration for his song. Question 27. What, according to Shelley, is the function of a poet? Answer. According to Shelley, the poet's function is to regenerate the human society. He has the mission to communicate his message to the world. Question 28. What, according to Shelley, is the function of poetry? Answer. According to Shelley, poetry fills the veil from the hidden beauty of the world. It has the power to chasten and refine the emotions of man. Question 29. What is meant by a love-laden soul? Answer. It means a heart full of the pangs of love. Question 30. What happened to the love-laden maiden? Answer. She was imprisoned in a lovely tower. Question 31. Who is a love-laden maiden? Answer. She is a high-born maiden whose heart is full of the pangs of love for her lover. Question 32. Why does the love-lorn maiden sing? Answer. She sings to soothe her love-afflicted soul by giving an outlet to the intensity of her passion of love. Question 33. Why does the love-laden maiden sing? Answer. She sings in secret hour that she sings when she is lonely. Question 34. How is the song of the love-laden maiden? Answer. Her song is as sweet as her passion of love. Question 35. Why is the skylark song compared to a love-laden maiden song? Answer. As the maiden is confined in a tower, she is not visible, but her song is heard by people outside. Similarly, as the skylark soars higher and higher, it is not visible, but its song is audible to us. Question 36. What does the picture of the love-laden maiden suggest? Answer. The picture of the love-laden maiden suggests a world of odor and romance. Question 37. How is the skylark likened to a glowworm? Answer. A glowworm remains hidden by the grass and leaves of plants, but its presence is recognized by the light it scatters around itself. In the same way, the skylark remains invisible in the aerial regions above, but its presence is felt by the sweet music that comes from it. Question 38. Why is the skylark compared to a rose? Answer. The rose remains hidden in its own green leaves, but its presence is felt by its scent. In the same way, the skylark is invisible to our eyes, but its presence can be felt by the sweet songs it pours forth. So the skylark is compared to a rose. Question 39. Who are the heavy-winged thieves? Why? Answer. The winds are the heavy-winged thieves because they steal the fragrance of rose and become so heavy with the fragrance that its movement becomes slow. Question 40. What are vernal showers? Answer. Vernal showers are the showers or rains of springtime. Question 41. What does the music of the skylark surpass in joy, clearness, and freshness? Answer. In joy, clearness, and freshness, the music of the skylark surpasses the sound of rain falling on the bright grass in spring and the flowers refreshed and brightened by the spring rains. Question 42. Teach us sprite or bard. What does the poet want to learn? The poet wants to learn the inspiration of the harmony of the skylark's song. Question 43. Which are an empty bond in comparison with the skylark's songs? Answer. The wedding song and the song of victory are an empty bond, meaningless in comparison with the skylark's songs. Question 44. What is chorus hymeneal? Answer. Chorus is a song sung by several persons together, and hymen is the god of marriage. So chorus hymeneal means a marriage song. Question 45. What is meant by a triumphal chant? Answer. Triumphal chant means a song sung by birds to celebrate victory. Question 46. Why is the skylark song so perfect? Answer. The skylark song is so perfect because the joy or happiness of the skylark is pure, free, and unalloyed. Question 47. What do you mean by shadow of annoyance? Answer. Shadow of annoyance means the least touch of irritation. Question 48. What is love sad satiety? Answer. It is a feeling of disaster after an excessive enjoyment of the pleasures of love. Question 49. How is the skylark better than a man? Answer. The skylark is better than man in the sense that the skylark knows more of life and death than man can ever know. Its insight is truer and deeper than that of mortals. Question 50. What is meant by crystal stream? Answer. It means the pure and perfectly harmonious flow of music from the skylark. Question 51. What is meant by the line, we look before and after? Answer. The line means our lives are burdened with the thoughts of the past and the fears about the future. Question 52. Why can't we enjoy the pleasures of the present? Answer. Because of the loss of the past and the uncertainty about the future, we cannot enjoy the pleasures of the present. Question 53. Our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought. Identify the figure of speech. It is an instance of epigram. Question 54. Why does the skylark fly in the higher regions? Answer. The skylark flies in the higher regions because it feels contempt for the earth and mundane life. Question 55. When can a poet produce rapturous songs like the skylark? Answer. A poet can produce rapturous songs like the skylark if he can acquire the skylark's musical skill. Question 56. What is harmonious madness? Answer. It means poetic frenzy by means of which a poet composes highly inspired poetry. Question 57. What appeal does Shelley make to the skylark and why? Answer. Shelley appeals to the skylark to communicate to him the half of its joy so that he can write poems which will be able to touch the heart of the listener. Question 58. Why does Shelley call skylark crooner of the ground? Answer. Shelley calls the skylark crooner of the ground because it flies in the higher regions, feeling contempt for the earth and mountain life. Thank you friends for watching my video.